Denmark is on alert due to unauthorized drone activity over 4 of its airports on Wednesday night and Thursday morning. The defense minister said the attack appears to be professional. A unique preparedness drill is underway in Sweden, testing the country's ability to receive and treat war victims. Denmark is on alert due to an unauthorized drone activity over 4 of its airports on Wednesday night and Thursday morning. Aalborg Airport, a major hub for both commercial and military flights, was closed for about 3 hours as a result. Police could not yet comment on the purpose of the drones or who was behind them. The incident follows similar drone sightings that raised security concerns at Copenhagen Airport on Tuesday and Oslo Airport on Monday. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen called it the most serious attack yet on Denmark's infrastructure. The Danish Defense Minister stated that the attack appears professional. It is also known that commercial drones are not equipped with the necessary software to take off in no-fly zones. The Kremlin has called suspicions of Russian involvement unfounded. The events come as Europe is on high alert after NATO members like Poland, Estonia and Romania reported Russian airspace violations last week.
There are reckless actions in at least 3 member states.
On Tuesday, NATO condemned Russia's actions and warned it would use all necessary tools to defend itself.
We will make sure that we can always defend and deter where necessary.
A unique preparedness drill is underway in Sweden, testing the country's ability to receive and treat war victims. It's the first time that the Warmland region and the National Board of Health have collaborated on an exercise of this kind. The drill, called Resilient Care 25, simulates a scenario where armed conflict in eastern NATO territories has resulted in some 70 injured people being flown in for emergency care. Real volunteers with fake injuries have been transported from Norway, Germany and the Netherlands to act as casualties. One of the volunteer patients is 14-year-old Emilie Stav from Oslo, who is playing the role of someone suffering from a chest wound and an infection. A temporary medical unit has been set up by an airport, complete with regular and intensive care beds, operating rooms and a trauma unit. Around 40 medical staff from Warmland region are taking part in the exercise, though in a real-life event, that number would likely need to be several times higher.
Cleanup efforts are underway in Taiwan, southern China and Hong Kong after Typhoon Ragasa, the most powerful storm of the year, battered the region with fierce winds and torrential rain. Severe flooding as a result of the heavy rainfall burst the banks of a barrier lake in the east of Taiwan, killing 14 people, Taiwanese authorities said. Search and rescue efforts are underway as over a dozen are still missing.
US President Donald Trump has called for an investigation claiming he was the victim of a, quote, triple sabotage at the UN General Assembly on Tuesday.
So what happened?
In a social media post on Wednesday, Trump said he experienced what he called 3 sinister events: a halted escalator, a faulty teleprompter, and the sound being off during his speech.
The escalator, Stefan Dujarric said.
A UN spokesperson suggested a US videographer accidentally stopped the escalator, but Trump insisted it was deliberate. His ambassador to the UN called the incidents unacceptable.
As Trump began his address,
The claim followed his speech on Tuesday, where he blamed the UN for rejecting his past offer to renovate its headquarters. He also lamented that his offer of adding marble floors was rejected.
the sensitivity of the issue, said the White House was operating.
Latvian President Edgars Rinkēvičs has urged Hungary and Slovakia to listen to Trump, who is calling on European countries to stop importing Russian gas and oil. Speaking to Euronews in New York, Rinkēvičs said they were already in a hybrid war with Russia.
President Trump was very clear. And actually he was also calling to all NATO allies to stop buying oil and gas from Russia. I think that this is probably the clearest support for Ukraine that any country can actually render.
And when it comes to the coalition of the willing and the security guarantees, do you think Trump is already there?
If we decide to provide security guarantees, if we decide to send troops on the ground, we need US support there. Not probably US troops on the ground, but logistical support, intelligence support, other kind of support.
What do you think something that could be strategic for Ukraine having now that the EU should push, for example, to deliver?
I think that in reality, Ukraine is holding very well. The Russian economy is not doing so well. If we push more when it comes to sanctions, if we stop buying oil and gas, then probably it could influence very much the way how the whole situation in Ukraine.
Europe is trying to phase out the use of Russian oil and gas. Do you think the Danish presidency will be able to deliver on this, or do you think the opposition from Hungary and Slovakia will stop the process?
Well, I hope that we will be able to achieve that goal. Look at my own country, Latvia. Back in 2017, we were 100% dependent on Russian gas and oil. Today, in 2025, we are completely independent. We are buying oil and gas from different countries. If there is a political will, there is going to be also the result.
Do you think your country is particularly, of course, threatened from Russia?
We are at hybrid war, so all kinds of provocations, short of real military operation, is something that we are monitoring very closely, and we are trying to figure out how to counter them.
Electric vehicles are rapidly gaining share in the EU car market, even though hybrid electric models remain the most popular category, according to the latest figures. From January to August this year, sales of electric cars grew by nearly 25%, while hybrid sales went up over 16%. In contrast, the number of newly registered petrol and diesel cars collapsed by nearly 20% and 26% respectively. Volkswagen led the sales of new cars in the EU for the first 8 months of 2025, securing over a quarter of the market share. The German car giant's sales were boosted by its Skoda and Cupra brands, while the French Renault Group also saw its sales grow. However, Toyota and Stellantis saw their sales drop, while Tesla's sales continued to plummet by more than 42%, cutting its market share to just 1.2%. Meanwhile, Chinese competitors are conquering the European market, with BYD sales surging by 244% and SAIC Motors boosting sales by over 33%.
Jens Eskeland, president of the EU Chamber of Commerce in China, warned of a sharp rise in Chinese exports to Europe following Washington's announcement of sweeping import tariffs in April. Shifting trade from the US to Europe could have a significant impact on European industries, especially if imports from other countries are offered at low prices.
Have seen in the first half how exports from China to North America have been declining. So I think you could perhaps term it a trade diversion. But I don't think it's the whole story. I think there are more elements to this sort of continued growth of Chinese exports to Europe. One is, of course, that you have a number of Chinese companies that are just very good at what they are doing.
One reason for the jump, China's weak currency. The country's economy is battling stagnant consumer demand and falling property prices, headwinds that are also squeezing European businesses in China. The latest survey by the EU Chamber of Commerce in China shows 73% say doing business there is getting harder year after year, with confidence at rock bottom.
The pessimism that you see right now is primarily due to the state of the Chinese economy. We have seen that in many sectors there is very intense competition. You have overcapacity in some sectors. So we really think the Chinese government right now needs to focus on how do we get back to a situation where sort of demand and supply is in sort of better alignment than is the case today.
Talking to Euronews, the EU business leader warned that if the current trend of trade imbalance continues, tensions with China are almost certain to rise, urging both sides to keep talking to reduce the risk for their economies.
We want to have a clean line of sight, predictability, reliability are things really that we appreciate as businesses. As we do our plans, we make investments and so on. And I think in this present environment where you sort of have sky-high tariffs and then they decrease and then one policy announcement is being made and then there is a reaction. all this volatility right now is something that affects business behaviors.